backgrounds, your baggage at the door. Like, bring it in and we can weave a new tapestry here. So I'm using A Course in Miracles and a few other things today. And in The Course in Miracles, in this one lesson, it says the ego's, we're talking about peace. The first idea is trust. So trust breeds great peace. So it says the ego's plan for salvation, or the ego's plan for peace, centers around holding grievances. That's the ego's plan, centers around holding grievances. And it maintains that if someone else spoke or acted differently, if some external circumstance or event would just change, then I would be happy, then I would be saved, then I would have peace. And thus the source of my peace is constantly perceived outside of myself. And each grievance that you hold is a declaration and an assertion in which you believe that says, if this were different, then I would be saved. The change of mind that's necessary for our own internal peace is thus demanded of everyone else except for ourselves. And isn't that a great, like, a no-fail plan of the ego? I mean, it has us by the short and curly right there, you know what I mean? Like, there's no way you can win that game because you will never be able to change the entire world. That's not going to happen. And so if you want to change one thing about the world or the entire world, it doesn't matter. You have now handed your peace over, and you're no longer able to have peace. So this month we're going to cover peace. And peace, like I said, is the foundation of trust, and trust is a foundation of great peace. And I think when I was looking into trust in A Course in Miracles, that some of the most beautiful words that we can offer to anyone would be, I trust you. Right? I mean, those words are almost more beautiful than I love you. Because most of the time when we're talking about I love you, we're not really talking about love. Right? We're talking about our version of painted fear, where, you know, our love is just parading around in a very conditional way, and we don't want to really think about the idea that I don't love you, that I want to control you. You know, another great way for I trust you is I free you. You know, I free you. Be what you need to be. You know, and I will have peace. But why? So why do we decide to have conditional love? Why do we choose conditional love when we know that unconditional love is really going to serve our peace? The reason that we have conditional love is because I don't trust you. Like, I just don't trust you and you don't trust me. You know, so that we can work with. You know, that we can look at, why don't I trust you? Why do I have to control everything? Why do I have to make you be the way I want you to be in order for me to be happy? Like, what lives underneath that? And if we get to that question, we might find the trigger that sets us free. So Mickey Singer wrote the Surrender Experiment, and he talks about surrendering, which is trust in action. And he says that once you're willing to let go of yourself, life becomes your friend. So let go of what you think. Life becomes your friend. Life becomes your teacher. Life becomes your secret lover. When life's way becomes your way, so when life's way, when life shows up and it becomes, you become at peace with it, all of the noise stops and there's great peace. And the idea of building trust is what will bring great peace. Imagine having great peace. These are kind of funny words too, right? Great peace, it sounds like an oxymoron, right? Like jumbo shrimp, like, you know. Like we want great peace, but like some of us are like, I can't even deal with little peace. Like I'm not even little peace, so I don't know how the hell I'm gonna get great peace. But nevertheless, great peace is actually what we are heir to. It's who we are. And of course we are capable of great peace. And it gets easier and easier and easier as we make it our true and only goal. You know, that we decide that it's really what we value. Not being right, not making someone wrong, but peace. That's really what we value. And then we'll begin to really experience what it feels like to value something that's truly good and beautiful and holy. And we'll begin to experience that feeling that we get from almost an admiration of peace, that it satiates everything. And we begin to like the person we see in the mirror. And we begin to like the way we see ourselves navigating the world as we trust in peace. And we become less and less tolerant of our ragged, jagged, dramatic, and defensive ways. You know? So we see the value in surrendering our little wishes and our little wants and our little will to experience a greater fluidity, a greater freedom that comes from peace. And we get to hold on to nothing. We get to come to the party without an agenda and hold on to nothing, so we experience, whee, you know? That's not me. That's we. That's you and me together. We get the we. So, this is how we touch the hem. This is how we get to touch the hem that heals us, you know, that gives us true love. And true love is not without want, is not with wanting. It's not with needing. You know, it comes completely opened and capable of loving all things equally as they are. It sounds big, but we're all designed for that. We are all designed for that degree of unconditional love, without defenses. So instead of saying, we will hear ourselves, instead of saying, no way, we'll switch that script to, okay. Going from no way to okay is a big jump. And if we get from no way to okay, we can make the next step to yes and. And yes and is a tool that they give us in improv, where the actor says something and instead of fighting and saying no way, negating it, we begin to say yes and. So it would sound something like if somebody said, we're going to have burgers tonight, and you'd say, no way, I'm a vegan, you know? Then you guys are going to chase each other around the drain, and you're just going to go nowhere, and nothing's going to be created, and nothing new is going to be discovered. But if you said, we're going to have burgers tonight, and you say, yes, and we're going to have veggie burgers too, you know, then you're adding to it without negating your brother's story. You're just allowing yourself to have space in the conversation, where it's perfectly appropriate for you to add to it without taking anything away. That's what unconditional love. It includes yourself. It includes your truth. It's not that you have to surrender yourself and be a doormat. I mean, there are ways of showing up and honoring your truth as well. So, negativity, when we say no way, it blocks the possibility of creativity. Creativity lives between you and me, and it's holy ground. And another good question for us would be, why do I want to block creativity? Why do I demand for it to be my way? Why am I actually limiting myself and keeping myself in this cell? It's interesting to contemplate that in A Course in Miracles it says, in your defenselessness, your safety lies. And we think in the world, I gotta defend, this is gonna keep me safe. This does not keep you safe. It keeps you small. But when I say, okay, let me go into this mystery with you, it begins to open up this idea that the world is safe. There's nothing to fear out here. It's just God meeting God all the time. So this is not just true for improv actors. This is a way to move through life. To just be able to open the door and say, yes and, yes and, yes and. You know, I'm capable of meeting everything with grace, no matter what, without negating it, without breaking it down, without judging it. You know, and without making myself smaller as well. In the surrender experiment, Michael Singer says, my formula, and I think this is a great formula, my formula for success is very simple. It says, do whatever's put in front of you, with all your heart and soul, without regard for personal results. Do the work as though it was given to you by the universe itself, because it was. And I heard the other day about being an artist. I was getting some coaching, and this guy was saying, like, as an artist, we're required to do the work and then step away from it. It's not our responsibility how the work is perceived in the world. You know, to be detached to that degree allows us to show up without a dog in the fight. We've already done our part. This is the surrender. This is the letting go. This is the letting there be space and breath and even agitation and struggle if that shows up in the room without trying to fix the agitation or the struggle. Just holding the space. You don't have to engage in it. You can just witness, oh, this person has seen my art, my craft, my life, and decides to be upset by it. But that does not define me. It's still who I am. And I have enough space for them to be upset without trying to fix, change, or convince them. Can you imagine? I mean, that would be a really audacious way to move. That's what I am, you know, personally working on myself. So it's very generous. It's generous and fearless to put your craft, your life out there and be visible. It's generous to put your life, your craft out there and be visible and share it with the world. It's generous for you to say, do what you will with this, and I won't take any offense. You know, that would be super generous. If we play that game, then we're actually playing just to play. We're not playing to win or lose, and that's pretty sublime. This is what it feels like when it's not you against me, when it is in the we, you know? So Joel Osteen has this great story that came up on our call the other day. Yeah, so he was telling us a story about Joel Osteen and how Joel is a big sports guy, and he was away from this game that he really wanted to watch, but he came back to the game and he knew the outcome of the game. He knew that his team won. So he sat down to watch the game, and in the game, his team was losing horribly, really badly. But he didn't care, because he knew the outcome. And he just sat there eating his popcorn, like, I know the ending, you know? It's a very, peaceful way to work through a game, And so we were like, wow. In A Course in Miracles, it says that God's ending is always happy. That God is always guaranteeing us a happy ending. But we forget that during the game, during the rough patches. We're like, God, what's happening? And we take it seriously. And so we started contemplating the story of Joel Osteen about how, what would happen if he knew, this was Chris's question, which I thought was great, if he knew that his team lost. Would he even watch the game? And would he watch it in peace? Just because he enjoyed his game? Just because he enjoyed watching his players play? Could he show up to that in that detached way? And then the other question was, how often do we rerun broken games where we lost? We just sit there rewatching them over and over and over again in this victim mentality. We never really recognize that we have the ability to change the channel. And we're the channel. We get to decide, I want to keep reliving this broken story. But if I am reliving broken stories, then I want to go deeper and figure out what is the virus in the computer. Because it's not the copies that are being spit out by the computer that are the problem. The problem is there's a virus in the computer, a place where I believe that I'm something less than awesome, that I'm something less than perfect. So I get to work with that internally. The other question that came up would, what would it be like if we knew that every situation ended well? That every situation ended well. Even in the midst of the storm, if we had that degree of trust in God. So the Course says God's promises make no exception. He guarantees that only joy can be the final outcome. Yet it's up to us when it is reached. How long we let an alien will appear to be opposing God's will. And while we think that this is real, we will not find the end that is appointed as the outcome of all of our problems. In the 12th step it says, acceptance is the answer to all of our problems. When we perceive something as wrong or inappropriate, it's not that we want to change the situation, it's that we want to change how we're thinking about the situation. So when will we decide that maybe this isn't wrong, bad, or inappropriate? Maybe we could just decide to be at peace and in curiosity with it without letting it grab our peace from us. And when I say grab our peace, I don't mean to assume that peace has the ability to be grabbed. We always surrender it. We always give it away. And that's where our own personal responsibility to our unfurrowed brow comes in. I chose this. I chose to let you be large and in charge in regards to my life, as opposed to my having peace and making space for your not liking something that I'm doing or showing up in a way that I'm not completely thrilled with, So, and always it's a reflection of something internal. Like I'm seeing some place within me that's unhealed that I don't want to heal, so I bury it in you so I don't have to deal with it. So always you're my teacher. So, in the end, does the end really matter? If the end is always happy, could we play just to play and not get attached to the outcome? To remember that life is a game, that we came here naked with nothing, that we leave naked with nothing, and during this little, parenthesis in time, that we get to experience joy or pain, and we get to choose. In the prayer that we do every morning, make me an instrument of your peace, we're saying, make me an instrument. We're not saying I'm responsible for peace. We're saying, I want you to play this instrument, God, and I am the instrument. And I'm not responsible for the songs that come out of me when I surrender myself to your hands, right? And but you could know, that you could really be clear. Is peace playing this instrument, or is fear playing this instrument? You will know by the music that escapes the instrument. If the music is complaining, is kvetching, is angry, is depressed, is frustrated, you can be sure that you've been eating the diet of fear. If the music is happy, beautiful, light, joyful, expansive, you can be sure that peace is playing you. And you get to decide. You don't have to judge the music. If you see that the music is a little awkward, you don't have to judge it, but you do get to decide. You do get to be responsible. Course in Miracles says to ask 1,000 times a day, who walks with me until you are certain? And John Dove Fisher was saying on the call this morning, if you were to sincerely ask 1,000 times a day, who walks with me? Does love walk with me? Or does fear walk with me? If you were to ask that 1,000 times a day, somebody did the math, and it turns out it'd be 16 hours. Just sit there, who walks with me? Who walks with me? Who walks with me? So, and it says to ask that until it's consistent, until you know the answer. That the answer is love, you know? And until you know the answer, keep asking. Keep asking, because that's what's going to keep you on course with love. So, so this is how we build that trust, from that great trust that delivers that great peace. And each of us are worthy of that great peace. I had one little story that I wanted to end with, and that was, there was a story of this guy who was on a plane. And the plane was having great turbulence. It was like hitting rough spot after rough spot after rough spot. And the more rough turbulence that befell this flight, the more people on the flight got agitated and agitated and agitated. And you watched people like grabbing, you know, their pillows and screaming and crying, and on it went. Except for this one child that was sitting on the plane. And the little child was reading a book. I know, and every once in a while he saw the little child when it hit a rough spot. She'd look up and she'd go, and then she'd go back to reading. He was like, wow, how could you have such peace in the middle of this storm? So the flight didn't crash, it landed, and everybody began to get off. And he said to the child, like, I'm so impressed with you. You had so much peace during this storm. And she said, yeah, well, my dad's the pilot. And he's taking me home. Is that true for you? Do you trust the pilot is taking you home? That's the word. Awesome. Yeah.